Hi friends, this is your pal Scott Garibay, and today we are going to talk about American politics, and we're going to talk about a recent discussion with Sam Harris. I have seen Sam Harris around, but I was very shocked. So I watched this podcast. Everything's on a podcast now, and I didn't even know the guy who was interviewing Sam Harris, but Sam Harris said this on his podcast. And I wanted to discuss it. So he was saying, so I am astonished at the breakdown that the Democrats continue to have about their own party and their public discussion of how much trouble they're in and what their plan is to get out of the trouble, right? So Sam Harris actually said this was astonishing. He said that he thinks going forward, Democrats should not talk about race at all, right? Now, that's a huge statement, right? Like, because you're like, wait a second, these guys have been, they've been very, they've been allies, right, of people of color, and he talked about it. He's like, he's like, African Americans, Native Americans. The Democrats are like, we are your protectors, and so the idea that Democrats would stop talking about race is shocking. It is absolutely shocking, right? And so it was really shocking. So he taught. So he kind of he knew what he was saying was shocking, right? And so he's like, okay, here's what we need to talk about. He's like, when we're talking about this, we have to ask, what is ethical, what is politically pragmatic now, and what is compatible with political survival? ? What? Let's repeat that, okay? He said, what is ethical, okay? And what is politically practical now? And what is compatible with political survival, right? So let's break. So what he's saying is, what is ethical? Now, what he's saying is that it is ethical to talk about race in America, and to say, and he was saying, like, one of the reasons why that this has become dangerous is on the Democrat side, they are like, and I'm not making a statement on this. I'm explaining his position, right? I'm not saying whether I think this is true or not, because there's just not enough time in this video to get into all that, right? And so he said, is it ethical? So he's saying, is it ethical to talk about race, for Democrats to talk about race? And his contention is absolutely yes, right? It's ethical to talk about race. So, why would the conversation need to go any further than that? Wouldn't you just do what was ethical? But then it goes further, and he's like, well, what's politically pragmatic at this point? And the reason he's saying it's not politically pragmatic to talk about that is there was an understanding among the Democrats that when you talked about race, that the problems of races in America that are not white, there was systemic racism against them, right? And so what he's saying is, just even holding that opinion is no longer politically pragmatic, which is pretty interesting, right? And so that's a bold statement, right? Because he's saying, we can keep talking about this, but we're not going to win, right? And we talked about it, and we talked about it, and we talked about it, and we didn't move the needle. We didn't change people's minds. And so I think one of the things he's really talking about now is, like, when is there a point where you're like, okay, we've gone over this, we've done this, we've done the ethical thing, and we're losing, right? And we're not just losing with a bunch of white people, we're losing with the people that we were trying to defend, right? Latinos, African Americans, not so much Native Americans. In fact, I don't think we really have many numbers at all on Native Americans. And also, frankly, I don't think many people even talk about Native Americans in political discussions, because frankly, I don't think there's enough numbers to even matter, right? I think that's one of the reasons why. I don't think there's so much prejudice. First of all, I'm from the Mattaponi tribe. I am Native American. But, like, I don't think people talk about Native Americans in discussion of American politics, because there's so few of them, it doesn't even come up, right? Like I listen to Grace Randolph literally every week when she reports the numbers for movies So when she reports the money that movies make, she's like, here's how many Latinos went, here's how many black people went, African American, excuse me, right? Yeah, and she's like, and they have numbers. They never say, oh, here's how many Native Americans go, right? It's not a thing, right? So, but Democrats are like, we're the protectors of these people, right? Because in America they need protectors. But at this point, he's like, this is not politically pragmatic to talk about. And I do think there's some value in saying, hey, we can keep saying the same thing, we can keep doing the same thing, but we're going to continue to lose. And I do think this is productive to begin to talk about these things, because the loss that the Democrats had was absolutely devastating, right? And like, I'm listening to Jamel Brewy, and he still has really strong, I think he's brilliant. I really like him a lot. He still has strong opinions on, issues of politics, right? But like Ta-Nehisi Coates, right? And I feel like Jamel Brewy is aware of what's happening and is starting to try to determine a different tack to talk about these issues. Whereas with Ta-Nehisi Coates, it's the same, like, it's just like the same contemptuous condescension that he had before, and that Ezra Klein called out as the number one sin of the Democrats, right? Like, it just like, yeah, you can call, people who you can call Trump followers fascists. Great, I know you feel great. It's not going to help, right? Like, so like, it's not going to help you win, right? Then let's talk about his last point. He's actually saying, is it compatible with political survival? This is where we've landed. We've landed in a world where people are literally talking about whether the Democrat Party will survive, right? Now, that's interesting. I get why he's saying it. I think that's a very honest discussion. I will say this. I don't think the Democrats are in a lot of trouble about political survival. I'm glad that they're opening, like, I think maybe that might have been shock language to shock the Democrats into saying, hey, you need to stop saying the same junk that you've been saying forever. It doesn't move the needle. It doesn't convince anyone. It alienates people. We have to stop this contemptuous condescension that we've been doing. We have to stop portraying to the world that all of the Democrat Party is serving Ivy League, coastal elite socialists, right? Like, because that's the perception right now, right? And he's like, we've got to change the narrative, right? And so, but I will say this, I don't think the Democrats are in that much trouble of ending as a party. And the reason why is America loves its two-party system. And I think the best way to understand what's actually happening with Democrats today is they are on the ground, and the Republicans are virtually kicking them in the face every single day. And it's bad. It's really bad. But I don't think, but like, they have they're not going to die, because I think they have their guys like Ezra Klein are like, let's get our arms up, right? Like, we need to protect our teeth and our eyes and our nose, right? Like, and at this point, they're getting kicked in the arms, right? Like, but it's bad. There's blood, there's broken bones. Like, it's a bad virtual beating. It's very, very bad, right? It's so bad that I actually think that the Republicans really need to start thinking about not scoring as many points on the Democrats. They're just in a really bad space, and it's starting to look like bullying, right? So, here's the kicker. They're not going to be replaced by anybody else. This country is not going to replace its two-party system. So does that mean that the Democrats can't win? That is correct. The Democrats cannot do anything to earn a win themselves, but the Republicans can absolutely pack up a win for them in a box, put it in wrapping paper, put a bow on it, and hand it to them. That is extremely real. One of the things, I think one of the biggest concrete realities of American politics today is, Lord forbid you win. Because the moment you win, you own every problem. And America will punish you swift and hard if you do not deliver. The Republicans are delivering, but they're making a ton of unforced errors. Under the Republicans, we have U.S. soldiers occupying U.S. cities. No one expected that. Under the Republicans, We are now under threat of lifetime presidents. We've never talked about this before, and only 2 nations on the planet have lifetime presidents. In both those nations, it is not good, not good, not good, right? And I don't think even a lot of Republicans are super excited about the idea of us being a lifetime presidency nation. It is not good. Every single word you just heard in this video is my humble opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking, subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.